Today we'll be reviewing three key types of distal radius fractures: Colles, Smith, and die punch, including their mechanisms, prevalence, and indications for surgery. It's important to note that there are many classification systems for distal radius fractures, including Frickman, Malone, AO/OTA, and a couple other eponyms such as Barton, whether it's dorsal Barton or volar Barton, that we'll discuss in future videos. We'll begin with Colles fracture. So Colles fracture is by far the most common type, accounting for approximately 60 to 70% of all distal radius fractures. It typically results from a fall on an outstretched, extended wrist, leading to dorsal angulation and displacement of the distal radius, the classic dinner fork deformity. Here we see an example of a Colles fracture. You can see that the volar side of the hand is marked by this V, and here I have a fork just demonstrating the dinner fork deformity, as it's sometimes referred to. You can see this fracture fragment is dorsally angulated, giving it the appearance of a dinner fork. Here's a trace of the fracture fragment. As you can see, in this single view, you don't get much of a understanding as to the angulation of the fracture, but in lateral view, you can clearly see dorsal angulation, meaning and reaffirming that one view is practically no view. Next, we'll move on to the Smith fracture. Smith fractures are also known as reverse Colles fractures, represent about 5 to 10% of distal radius fractures, and they occur due to falls on a flexed wrist, causing volar angulation of the distal radius fragment. So here we can see a Smith fracture. V is marking the volar side, and you can see that the fracture fragment is volarly angled, and that's classified as a Smith fracture. Next, we'll move on to a die punch fracture. So this is an intra-articular fracture involving the lunate fossa of the distal radius, and it's caused by an axial load through the lunate. And they're less common, accounting for roughly 5 to 8% of distal radius fractures, but are clinically significant due to their intra-articular nature. So right here we can see the lunate bone is marked by this green trace, and it articulates with the radius at the lunate fossa, which we can see is depressed in this image, indicating a die punch fracture. So indications for surgery. Die punch fractures are often necessarily treated by surgery to restore joint congruity, especially because of their intra-articular nature, and significant depression or associated carpal subluxation is indicative of surgery. For Colles fractures, these are usually treated non-operatively, unless if there is significant displacement or comminution, or intra-articular involvement or post-reduction instability. Smith fractures, on the other hand, are more likely treated operatively compared to Colles fractures because of their significant volar displacement and likelihood to be improperly reduced or to have a hard time maintaining reduction due to the tension caused by the volar flexor muscles on the wrist.